Anti-faction article, Our Lady of Notre Dame, high IQ, daily change of 10,000 words, QQ reading a group of signed works, $2 million complete books, complete guarantee. Qin Hua traveled to the Douluo Continent and became attached to a small family in the Tiandou City of the Tiandou Empire. Qin Hua originally thought he could break through a world in the Douluo Continent with his prophetic ability. Unfortunately, just as he was about to awaken his martial soul, he was brutally defeated by the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. But fortunately, he was rescued by Pope Bibidong of the Martial Soul Hall and became Bibidong's first disciple. So Qin Hua embarked on the path of revenge. Qin Hua awakened the most evil martial soul on the mainland and devoured it. Is it true or evil? It is also unknown. In the choice between the righteous and the antagonist, Qin Hua decided to become a passionate antagonist. Neither the Seven Treasures Glass Sect nor the Shrek 7 monsters can escape his palm. Book Friend Group 8331025554 Keywords of the novel. Douluo's God-level villain without pop-ups. Download the complete set of Douluo's God-level villain TXT, and read the latest chapter of Douluo's God-level villain. Chapter 1. Being Doomed Out. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Being Doomed Out. Tiandou Empire, Tiandou City. Qin Hua sat in the room, his eyes filled with uncontrollable excitement. Because 3 days later, it will be the day of his martial soul awakening. He is not from Douluo Continent, but crossed over from a place called Blue Star 2 years ago. As for why he traveled, Qin Hua is very angry when he thinks about it now. At that time, he saw a post about whether Tang San was a good person in Douluo Continent. Amidst the wave of support, Qin Hua chose the second option without hesitation. Then, Qin Hua was flipped over in drool. However, Qin Hua doesn't care about this. Anyway, it's all a virtual world, and it's impossible for these people to come and attack themselves along the internet. I can assume that I have installed etc on the keyboard and automatically raised the bar. But just after he splashed out tens of thousands of words, he woke up to find himself in a strange world. However, Qin Hua was not only not afraid, but also very excited about it. When he was on the Blue Star, he was just an ordinary person without a trace. His parents passed away at an early age, and his relatives had long lost contact because he had achieved nothing. So coming to this foreign world made him very excited instead. When he knew he had descended into the world of Douluo Continent, he became even more excited. Because for any purpose, Douluo Continent is his favorite book. The only thing that made him unhappy was that while the heavens had given him an incredibly handsome skin, they had not given him a strong support. His family is just a small family in Tiandou City, and he is not the eldest young master yet. He is just a third young master from a commoner, and his status is even lower. But no matter what, he is still a young master, living relatively well. The most important thing is that Qin Hua believes that his martial soul must be extremely dazzling and terrifying. 3 days later. Qin Hua murmured to himself. Speaking of which, he still felt a bit uneasy in his heart. After all, the matter of martial soul is related to whether one can break into a new world on the mainland. If it's a useless martial soul, then it's funny. At that moment, a voice suddenly sounded outside the door. Master Qin Hua, the master has called you over for dinner. Qin Hua stood up and opened the door. Standing in front of him was his personal maid Pei. At this moment, Pei stood in front of her with a smile on her face. Is there anything good? Look at you laughing like a flower. Qin Hua was somewhat puzzled. The master received a reward from the Snow Knight Emperor today and a treasure that is said to be priceless. For this reason, the master decided to hold a grand banquet. Is it a priceless treasure? After hearing this news, Qin Hua suddenly felt a hint of unease in his heart. You should know that your father is just a minor official in Tiandou City. Although not considered poor, it is definitely not considered wealthy. The Snow Knight Emperor had no reason to suddenly offer rewards. "Young master, what's wrong with you?" Pei called Qin Hua several times before Qin Hua realized it. Qin Hua immediately spoke up. "I know, you can go back first. If you tell my father that I'm not feeling well, then I won't attend the dinner party." Upon hearing this, Pei remained silent and muttered as she left. It is obvious that she is feeling unhappy that Qin Hua did not seize this opportunity. Qin Hua is just a young master from a commoner's family. Although he has no worries about food and clothing, he does not hold a high position in the Qin family. The opportunity for this dinner was finally won by Madame. But I didn't expect Qin Hua to be so ungrateful. After Pei left, Qin Hua returned to the bed and quietly lifted up her bedding. Under my own bed, there is a space that is the size of one person. The surroundings are densely covered with some black gravel. These black crushed stones are called soul stones, which can block the soul power exploration of soul masters below the Soul King. This soul stone is not cheap. Even Qin Hua begged for a long time before his mother bought some gravel for Qin Hua. As for the complete soul separation stone, don't think about it. Although the effect of soul isolation has been discounted, it still has some uses. After a moment of contemplation, Qin Hua didn't hesitate and went straight in. Time passed by minute by second, and the sky slowly darkened. The entire Qin family has also completely entered a frenzy. The Snow Knight Emperor personally bestowed a reward, which was an unprecedented honor. On the main table, the head of the Qin family and several young masters of the legitimate lineage toasted each other. My face was filled with joy. But at this moment, a very terrifying soul power suddenly descended, and the entire Qin family was instantly filled with a sense of annihilation. The head of the Qin family was so frightened that his wine glass fell to the ground, and several legitimate young masters also looked up at the sky in great fear. This soul power, at least at the level of Soul Douluo, may be even higher. They cannot think, nor dare they. At this moment, more than 10 figures stood in the sky. Led by a bony and rugged old man, although the bone lines can be clearly seen, the skeleton is quite large, several times larger than an ordinary person. And in front of him, there is also a middle-aged man. That middle-aged man stood in front of everyone, like a starry moon. Seven Treasures of Glass Sect. Looking at the clothes on these people, the head of the Qin family was filled with fear. You should know that this Seven Treasures Glass Sect is the first auxiliary sect of the Douluo Continent. The Seven Treasures Glass Pagoda of the martial soul of its disciples is the first auxiliary martial soul in the Douluo Continent. Most importantly, there are 2 titled Douluo in the Seven Treasures Glass Pagoda. I have seen Lord Ning. The head of the Qin family knelt on the ground with a thud, his voice trembling. Ning Fengji stood in the sky, somewhat curious. Do you know me? The villain is a 5th-rank official of the Heavenly Dou Empire. He once saw Lord Ning from afar in the court, and he is truly extraordinary in his heroic spirit. No need to flatter, flattery won't change your fate of dying today. Oh, no, it's all about the Qin family dying. Upon hearing these words, the head of the Qin family was struck like lightning. He didn't know where he had offended the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. This is completely contrary to common sense. You should know that they have no intersection with the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, nor will they have any intersection. Since that's the case, I'll make you understand. The treasure given to you by the Snow Knight Emperor is just to borrow your hand and give it to my 7 treasures of the Glass Sect. If you want to blame it, blame the Martial Soul Hall. If it weren't for their interference, I wouldn't have spent so much effort. Upon hearing Ning Fengji's words, the head of the Qin family understood everything and everything. What treasures and rewards are all fake? I am just a sacrifice. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Sacrifices. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Sacrifices. In the imperial palace of the Heavenly Dou Empire, the Snow Knight Emperor sat first and remained silent. Bibidong sat beside him, his eyes full of gloom. Snow Knight Emperor, what do you mean by this? Why did you promise to give me the octagonal Xinli grass and reward it to someone else? Upon hearing this, the Snow Knight Emperor spoke leisurely. Pope, don't worry. There is a misunderstanding about this matter. The servants don't know that I have privately decided to give the octagonal cinnamon grass to the Martial Soul Hall. Coincidentally, the Qin family has made another contribution, so they gave the octagonal cinnamon grass to the Qin family. It's already late today, and tomorrow, I will send someone to the Qin family to exchange the octagonal cinnamon grass for an equal amount of treasure, and then I will personally deliver it to the Martial Soul Hall. How about that? Listening to the words of the Snowy Night Emperor, Bibidong's expression only slightly softened. But before Bibidong could speak, a faint voice rang out in his mind, and his face immediately changed dramatically. I saw her clap the table and stand up, saying coldly, Snow Knight Emperor, that's really a good strategy. I've eaten it at my Martial Soul Hall and remember it. After speaking, Bibidong disappeared directly into place. The Snowy Night Emperor sat in his original position, his smile no longer in his eyes, replaced by solemnity. I hope Ning Fengji can handle this matter well. Octagonal Xinli grass must not fall into the hands of the Martial Soul Hall. Qin family. At this time, the Qin family was already covered in corpses, with blood flowing into a river. The strongest member of the Qin family is just a Soul King. How could he possibly withstand the attack of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect? In front of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, the Qin family was naturally destroyed as if it had been destroyed. Under the guidance of Ning Fengji, a disciple of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect used a knife to cut open the abdomen of the head of the Qin family before finding the octagonal Xinli grass. Ning Fengji looked at the octagonal clover, which had almost turned into a pile of disgusting mucus, with a gloomy expression in her eyes. Damn it, you even ate the star anise, this is something you can touch. Master, should we break this old thing into countless pieces? They dare to touch our things too. The disciple of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect immediately spoke up. Upon hearing this, Ning Fengji's eyes flickered with a hint of hesitation. Well, the Martial Soul Hall has received the news and is expected to be here soon. Let's go, we can't let the Martial Soul Hall catch a move. As expected, the scouts from the Martial Soul Hall are everywhere. It's already great that we can take action first. Gu Douluo stood on the side and spoke to persuade. Let's go back and see if there's any way to remedy it. Ning Fengji looked at the deformed octagonal clover and let out a sigh. This Qin family seems to have another fish in the net. Gu Douluo's gaze narrowed slightly. Forget it, a little miscellaneous fish who hasn't even awakened his martial soul. Even if we don't kill him, the Martial Soul Hall won't let him go. Let's leave quickly. If we're blocked by the Martial Soul Hall, there's no way to explain it clearly. Less than half an hour after the evacuation of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, more than a dozen black figures descended from mid-air. Led by Pope Bibidong of the Martial Soul Hall, on the left and right are her two generals, Ju Douluo and Gui Douluo. Chrysanthemum Douluo looked at the mess in front of him, full of unwillingness. We're still late. That octagonal Xinli grass should already be in the hands of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Upon hearing this, Bibidong felt very depressed. She thought it was very safe to get this octagonal Xinli grass from the hands of the heavenly Dou Empire. But to my surprise, I ended up being fooled by that old guy from Snowy Night. He is truly an old man who has been in charge of the Tiandou Empire for decades. He really has something to offer. I'll take it. Under the crown, there seems to be another person in the Qin family. Chrysanthemum Douluo suddenly spoke up. Kill it, don't let your tongue down. If we block Ning Fengji here, it doesn't matter. But now let Ning Fengji run away. If this person takes another bite and splashes dirty water on the body of the Martial Soul Hall, then the Martial Soul Hall will suffer 2 consecutive losses. Yes, under the Pope's crown. In the hearts of the people in the martial soul hall, there is no distinction between women, children, old or young, only enemies and interests. But at this moment, Bibidong suddenly spoke up. Wait, don't kill him. Take him back to the martial soul hall. This kid has something. Qin Hua hid under the bed, trembling. Just now, the sound of silence coming from outside, as well as the thick bloody smell floating in the air, were all stimulating his nerves. Anyway, in his past life, he was also a young man who lived in a peaceful era and never even killed a chicken. And in this life, even more so, he has been a wealthy young master for the past few years. At this moment, his intuition told him that his guess was not wrong, and that something must have happened to the Qin family. At this moment, a very terrifying aura suddenly locked onto Qin Hua, causing his entire body to stand up in fear. Fortunately, the terrifying aura didn't last long before it disappeared. Qin Hua collapsed to the ground as if losing strength, his whole body soaked in cold sweat. Although he doesn't know what level of strength that aura is, it must be very terrifying. Just relying on his breath almost killed him. After a long time, there was no movement outside. So Qin Hua decided to go out and take a look. But just as he emerged from under the bed, a figure rushed in from outside the door at an incredibly fast speed. Qin Hua had no time to react, so his eyes darkened and he fainted directly. The next day, the news of the Qin family's downfall spread throughout the Tiandou Empire. Many people have been discussing this topic. The Snowy Night Emperor was even more angry. Even if he ordered directly, this matter must be thoroughly investigated and the culprit must be found. The Qin family is a pillar of the heavenly Dou Empire. Yesterday, just as they were rewarded, they were attacked by villains, which completely disregards their heavenly Dou Empire. Don't take him seriously as the Snow Night Emperor. The Snow Night Emperor immediately promised to gather all the bones of the Qin family and bury them next to the imperial tomb. In the words of the Snow Night Emperor, that is to say, the Qin family has paid so much for the Tiandou Empire, and it is my fault for not protecting them. After death, I must repay the Qin family well. This kind of imperial power has won the hearts of the people even more for the Snow Night Emperor. But only a very small number of people know the truth. The answer to whether the Tiandou Empire can investigate the truth of the matter is naturally negative. This is just a small trick of the Snow Night Emperor. In his heart, the Qin family is of no importance to the heavenly Dou Empire. The octagonal clover used to preserve treasures can be treated as an abandoned piece. So, their Qin family was mercilessly abandoned. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Has no pros and cons, only benefits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 has no pros and cons, only benefits. A burst of rosemary fragrance wafted into Qin Hua's nose, and he slowly woke up from his coma. At this moment, his whole body was filled with a bloody smell. The parents of this world are also his relatives, even though they are in the world of Douluo Continent. But after these 2 years of wanting to be with them, Qin Hua has already regarded them as relatives. Not long ago, although he did not see the bodies of his parents, he smelled the strong smell of blood and knew what had happened. My parents and relatives have all been killed. At this moment, a cold and slightly tired voice reached Qin Hua's ears. You're awake. Upon hearing this, Qin Hua opened his eyes and struggled to get up. At this moment, he was in a room made of black bricks and stones, which was very dim, with only a few scattered oil lamps illuminating it, pulling his own shadow towards the elderly. And right in front of Qin Hua, there was a woman sitting quietly. Because the woman was sitting, Qin Hua couldn't tell her exact height. She was dressed in a luxurious black robe, adorned with intricate golden threads. On top of the 9 curved purple gold crown above her head, there are many brilliant gemstones set. At this moment, the woman stood up and handed over a glass of water. The large, fair skin that caught Qin Hua's eye was almost suffocating. The fragrance of rosemary touched Qin Hua's heart and soul even more. Qin Hua quickly shifted his gaze to one side. That woman didn't feel anything. After all, in her eyes, Qin Hua was just a child under 6 years old. He could understand anything. But she didn't know that there was an adult soul hidden within the body of this 6-year-old child. Drink a glass of water to quench your thirst. After looking at myself and introducing myself, my name is Bibidong. Qin Hua just took the cup of water and heard the 3 words, Bibidong. The cup in his hand suddenly fell onto the bed, soaking a large area. But at this moment, Qin Hua had no time to pay attention and couldn't trust the woman in front of him. Are you the legendary Pope of the Martial Soul Temple, Bibidong? Looking at Qin Hua's reaction, Bibidong was very satisfied. She waved casually, and the water stains on the bed immediately evaporated, restoring the wet bedding to its original state. Bibidong handed over another glass of water. This time, you have to pick it up. Watching Qin Hua take the cup of water, Bibidong's deep right hand lightly tapped Qin Hua's forehead with Qianqian's finger, and then spoke. In the future, in the Martial Soul Hall, remember to call me the Pope or the Pope's crown. Otherwise, I cannot guarantee your life. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Qin Hua remained silent. Anyway, Bibidong is always a villain in the Douluo Continent. In everyone's perception, the villain is not a good person. Feeling Qin Hua's resistance, Bibidong was not surprised at all. Join my Martial Soul Hall and I will avenge you. For at most 10 years, I will help you personally blade your enemies. How about that? Enemies. Upon hearing these words, Qin Hua's eyes flashed with a hint of confusion. Isn't it Bibidong who killed his whole family? At this moment, Bibidong continued speaking. The ones who destroyed your Qin family were the imperial family of the heavenly Dou Empire, the Snow family, and the Seven Treasures Glass Sect. Speaking of this, your Qin family is also pitiful. 3 generations of ancestors sold nearly 100 years' lives to the heavenly Dou Empire, but in their hearts, it was not worth a dead object. For the sake of profit. After a long silence, Qin Hua spoke up. Upon hearing Qin Hua's words, Bibidong was very excited and his eyes were full of sparkling light. You are truly the person I admire. Stay and be my disciple. I can promise you that as long as I, Bibidong, am here, no one in the Douluo Continent will dare to bully you, and no one will do it. This is my promise from Bibidong to you. Such a domineering statement, spoken from the mouth of a legendary queen, is so shocking. In an instant, Qin Hua fell into a daze. At this moment, he was very conflicted in his heart, and his revered righteousness destroyed his own home. But the villain, on the other hand, rescued himself, which was completely beyond his understanding. After listening to Bibidong's words, Qin Hua understood. There is no absolute righteousness in this world, all there is profit. The heavenly Dou Empire treated the Qin family as an abandoned child in order to prevent octagonal Xinli grass from falling into the hands of the Martial Soul Hall. It can be said that the abandoned son of the Qin family has already played the greatest role in the hands of the Snow Knight Emperor. Shooting 2 birds with 1 arrow not only blocked the mouth of the Martial Soul Hall, but also won over people's hearts for oneself. This move is truly brilliant, and Qin Hua admires it. But what did the Qin family do wrong again? After 3 generations of hard work, is this what I have earned? Thinking of this, Qin Hua could no longer suppress his emotions and his whole body exploded. Looking at Qin Hua's rampage, Bibidong only watched quietly from the side, without saying a word. Bibidong's rescue of Qin Hua could not have been a sudden act of kindness. If there were virtuous women, Bibidong would not have been able to sit in this position today. She took Qin Hua as her disciple, completely recognizing Qin Hua's talent. Although Qin Hua has not yet awakened his martial soul, he is already at the critical point of awakening his martial soul, and it has been these days since he awakened his martial soul. Although Bibidong couldn't see clearly what Qin Hua's martial soul was, she could feel that Qin Hua was born with full soul power. Looking at the entire Douluo Continent, innate soul power is extremely scarce. Among 10,000 people with innate soul power, there may not necessarily be a person with innate full soul power. In addition, Qin Hua has just experienced the revenge of annihilating the door, and he has a strong hatred towards the Seven Treasures Glass Sect and the heavenly Douluo Empire, which is extremely suitable for a chess piece in his hand. What she hates the most in her life is betrayal. And Qin Hua, obviously, will not become the person who betrayed. At this moment, Qin Hua's reaction clearly satisfied her very much. Pack up and tidy up well. Since you have chosen to become my disciple, you must show your attitude. From today on, you will be the holy son of the martial soul hall. Here are your clothes, take them. Tomorrow morning, gather at the martial soul hall awakening hall, and I will personally preside over the martial soul awakening ceremony for you. I want to let those people know. Humph, they can't compete with me in the end. After speaking, Bibidong stood up and left directly. Qin Hua did not hesitate to learn from Bibidong. Because he knew that in order to seek revenge, he had to rely on the martial soul hall. Otherwise, relying solely on him, it would be impossible for him to shake the big tree and confront the imperial family of the heavenly Douluo Empire and the Seven Treasures of the Glass Sect. Looking at the clothes on the bed, Qin Hua fell into deep thought. Obviously, learning from Bibidong is an excellent choice. By relying on Bibidong, at least his starting stage will be very smooth and not too hindered. Starting from today, he will be the holy son of the martial soul hall. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. The most evil martial soul on the continent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. The most evil martial soul on the continent. The next morning, Qin Hua woke up leisurely from his dream. At this moment, a set of splendid attire was already placed next to Qin Hua's pillow, and not far away were two servants who were closely serving him. To be honest, Qin Hua prefers maids who are intimate, gentle, considerate, and pleasing to the eye. However, unfortunately, the tradition of the martial soul hall is that the holy son and lady, when they are minors, adhere to a principle that men are not worthy of women, and women are not worthy of men. This is actually easy to understand. Regardless of who ultimately inherits the papal throne, the Holy Son and Virgin will definitely be the core figure of the martial soul temple in the future. Because of this, there are always some people with malicious intentions approaching. It's not that they are spies of any kind, but rather that they want to use other means to lure the Holy Son and Virgin Mary into doing something indecent. In fact, this kind of thing not only happened in the world of Douluo Continent, but also had a precedent as early as the Qin dynasty of Blue Star. The last emperor of the Qin dynasty, Aizen Joropuai, was lured by palace maids in his youth, which later led to a hidden illness and a lifelong childlessness. Although they are two worlds, their cognition is actually similar. Your Highness, it's about half an hour until the time. You can get up and wash up. The Pope has instructed that you can only eat after awakening your martial soul. One of the guards came to Qin Hua and said with great respect. Upon hearing the words of the guard, Qin Hua nodded lightly, indicating that he understood. He turned and walked towards the set of clothes, but just as his fingertips touched it, a cold feeling soaked into Qin Hua's heart and spleen, making him feel incredibly comfortable. At this moment, Qin Hua couldn't help but be slightly shocked. He knew that the Martial Soul Hall family had a great cause, but he didn't expect that the Martial Soul Hall would be so wealthy and powerful. Just this piece of clothing is woven from thousands of years of cool silkworm silk. The silk of these thousand-year-old cool silkworms has a stabilizing effect on the mind. It is said that wearing this garment to cultivate soul power will greatly reduce the probability of becoming possessed by fire. In fact, Qin Hua did not know that even in the Martial Soul Hall, not everyone is qualified to wear clothes woven from thousands of years of cool silkworms and silk. Even ordinary elders in the Martial Soul Hall are not qualified to wear it. Only the Pope, the Son and Virgin Mary, and a few worshippers are eligible. It is not an exaggeration to say that this garment is priceless. After putting on the clothes, Qin Hua combed her hair into a more restrained-looking shape. It has to be said that on this Douluo Continent, long hair is indeed a bit annoying. Most importantly, at times, this flowing long hair combined with this incredibly handsome face made Qin Hua feel like he had passed away. Whenever it's time, Qin Hua would sigh in his heart, how could there be such a handsome person in this world? After narcissism, Qin Hua stood up and walked towards the door. It has to be said that this martial soul hall is really not average in size. Under the guidance of the guards, Qin Hua passed through more than 10 palaces and corridors before finally reaching the hall where he awakened his martial soul. At this moment, Bibidong clearly had been waiting here for a long time. When he saw Qin Hua coming, he slowly got up. "You're here." "Yes, teacher." Qin Hua spoke with great respect. "Okay. You come up here." Bibidong is still very satisfied with Qin Hua's attitude. "Su Yuntao, bring up the prepared things." Su Yuntao. Upon hearing these words, Qin Hua was taken aback. He looked at the middle-aged man next to him, who was not tall and looked slightly sleazy, with a hint of doubt in his eyes. He didn't expect that Su Yuntao, one of the passers-by who must appear in Douluo Continent novels, would actually grow up like this. Although Su Yuntao's face was very serious at this moment, Qin Hua couldn't help but want to laugh at that expression. Bang! With a clang, a plate containing soul flowers that could increase the chance of detecting innate soul power fell directly to the ground. It turned out that Su Yuntao accidentally stepped on his shoelace and knelt down in front of Bibidong with a thud like a dog eating shit. "Under the Pope's crown, spare your life, spare your life." Bibidong's authority in the martial soul hall is unique. Whoever Bibidong wants to kill is just as simple as crushing an ant. At this moment, Su Yuntao was extremely scared, curled up on the ground and trembling. Bibidong looked at Su Yuntao with a hint of impatience in his eyes. "Get out of the martial soul city and don't let me see you again." Upon hearing this, Su Yuntao, as if granted amnesty, quickly got up and left without looking back. Sure enough, under Bibidong's absolute authority, no one in the martial soul hall dared to provoke Bibidong. A maid bent down, picked up the soul flower, and placed it on the huge stone platform in the center of the hall. At this moment, in the center of the stone platform, there is a crystal ball with a diameter of half a meter embedded. It is obvious that this crystal ball is the protagonist who awakens Qin Hua's martial soul. Hold the soul flower in one hand and place the other hand on the crystal ball. Close your eyes and let yourself go. No matter what happens, don't resist. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Qin Hua nodded to show understanding. At the next moment, Qin Hua took a step forward and followed the steps mentioned by Bibidong, step by step. Qin Hua first picked up the soul flower with his left hand, and then pressed his right hand onto the crystal ball. At this moment, a huge black phantom suddenly appeared behind Qin Hua. This is Bibidong looked at the huge black figure behind Qin Hua, with a hint of solemnity in his eyes. At this moment, Bibidong seemed to have guessed what it was, but she was not sure. Because this kind of martial soul has not appeared for many years. As time passed, Qin Hua's martial soul became clearer and clearer. Bibidong was even more determined by his thoughts. That's right, this is the one who claims to be the head of the dark martial soul, devouring souls. Although soul devouring is one of the top martial souls on the mainland, its way of advancement is extremely cruel. When absorbing soul rings, not only do you need to absorb the soul power of soul beasts, but you also need to devour their souls. In the 500-year history of Douluo Continent, there has never been anyone who possesses soul-devouring martial souls. As time went on, anyone who had possessed soul-devouring martial souls was mercilessly executed by the Martial Soul Hall. After all, the Martial Soul Hall is self-proclaimed as a soul master organization in the Douluo Continent, and it is natural for it to be obligated to eliminate soul masters who possess such evil martial souls. Just as Qin Hua was awakening his martial soul, several figures appeared beside Bibidong. Led by it is the chrysanthemum Douluo Moon Pass. At this moment, the Moon Pass spoke in a deep voice. "Pope, shall we kill him?" What do you think?" Bibidong's voice was very calm, and she couldn't tell her attitude. Of course, according to the tradition of the Martial Soul Hall, soul masters who possess such evil martial souls will be executed on the spot. Chrysanthemum Douluo immediately spoke up. Obviously, Ju Douluo's answer made Bibidong very dissatisfied. After a moment of silence, Bibidong spoke up. "Who says that a person with an evil martial soul must be an unforgivable person? We are the Martial Soul Hall, the largest soul master organization on the mainland. In addition to the means of thunder, we also need to learn to be gentle. If we can lead Qin Hua to the right path, it is also a better choice." In fact, Bibidong had another sentence to say. There was also a martial soul similar to the soul-devouring martial soul in her body, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor. However, the soul-devouring Spider Emperor can only be considered a branch of soul-devouring and is not pure. Qin Hua's martial soul is the truly powerful martial soul. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Ju Douluo dared not speak up to refute. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Response from all parties. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Response from all parties. At this moment, Qin Hua's martial soul awakening ceremony was still ongoing. As time passed, Qin Hua's expression became more painful, and the huge black shadow behind him became brighter and clearer. That is a shadow-like existence, but its facial features are unclear. The entire martial soul seemed to be shrouded in a layer of phantom, and at a glance, there was a heart-wrenching feeling. Bibidong stood on the side, his excitement growing stronger in his eyes. At this point, she had already put the matter of star anise behind her mind. It's really worth it to exchange such a genius for an octopus plant. However, at this moment, Bibidong fell into contemplation. Ju Douluo is right. Although Qin Hua's martial soul is powerful, it goes against the rules. If we don't give an explanation, I'm afraid those people from the Seven Treasures Glass Sect will be writing articles in secret again. The current Martial Soul Hall is not strong enough, it is not yet strong enough to be enemies with the entire continent. However, she also has other options. Chrysanthemum Douluo, let the world know tomorrow. I, Bibidong, pity the living beings and cannot bear to cause slaughter at will. Although Qin Hua has a soul-devouring martial soul, he is still a child who knows nothing. I cannot bear to harm a child. So I personally took him as my disciple, hoping to educate him. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Ju Douluo immediately nodded. This is just an official explanation, and in fact, everyone understands that it is just a rhetoric. At the end of the day, Bibidong was attracted to Qin Hua's talent, that's all. At this moment, the faint blue light had gradually faded, and everything returned to silence. Qin Hua sat paralyzed on the stage, panting heavily, as if his entire body had been drained of energy. Bibidong approached, and Qin Hua turned to look at Bibidong. Teacher. Is my martial soul still okay? To be honest, Qin Hua himself was also very nervous when he said these words. After experiencing the event of extermination, Qin Hua deeply understood that there is no pure support on this Douluo continent, it just depends on whether you have value. Only when there is value can people invest. My child, congratulations to you. You are a true saint. Your awakened martial soul is called Devouring Soul, which is one of the most powerful martial souls in the world. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Qin Hua finally breathed a sigh of relief. However, the awakening ceremony of the martial soul has not yet ended. After awakening the martial soul, it is necessary to explore the innate soul power it possesses. Next, it was very easy. Qin Hua continued to place his hands on the crystal ball, and a brilliant blue light burst out in an instant. This is a symbol of innate soul power. But there wasn't much vibration from people. Because Bibidong had already known that Qin Hua was born with full soul power, while the other elders were not surprised. After all, having such a powerful martial soul, it would be strange if the innate soul power is too low. After the martial soul awakening ceremony, Bibidong personally escorted Qin Hua back to his room. In 3 days' time, I will personally take you to hunt for soul rings. Then, you will become a true soul master. Tiandou Empire, Tiandou royal family. The Snow Knight Emperor sat at the top, his eyes half open and half closed. He leisurely gazed at the singing and dancing below, his eyes full of pride. Although he is not the most wise and powerful emperor in the history of the Tiandou Empire, he can still rank among the top. The Snowy Knight Emperor is ambitious and has always wanted to strengthen the heavenly Dou Empire. However, the fact also proves the wisdom of the Snow Knight Emperor. In many crisis situations, the Snow Knight Emperor can always exchange the smallest loss for the greatest return. Just as the Snow Knight Emperor was still immersed in his great achievements, a figure suddenly appeared in front of him. This person is a member of the most confidential intelligence organization of the heavenly Dou Empire, and there is no absolutely urgent matter. He would never appear in such a situation. A hint of solemnity flashed in the eyes of the Snow Knight Emperor, and with a wave of his hand, all the singers left. In an instant, only the Snow Knight Emperor and the man in black remained in the main hall. Tell me, what happened? The man in black immediately handed over a letter and said with great respect. This came from the Martial Soul Hall half an hour ago. From the Martial Soul Hall. Upon hearing these words, the Snow Knight Emperor's gaze became even more solemn. He quickly took the letter paper. Soul Devouring Martial Soul reappears, owned by Qin Hua. It was brought back by Bibidong from the heavenly Dou Empire's heavenly Dou City, but the specific identity is unknown. From Tiandou City. Surname Qin. The Snow Knight Emperor seemed to have thought of something. Go and invite Master Ning of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, just say I have an urgent matter to find him. The Snow Knight Emperor was slightly angry, and he speculated that this Qin Hua was most likely from the Qin family. I have clearly explained that there is no one left in the Qin family, how could there still be a fish in the net? I have already done things seamlessly, but to my surprise, there were still mistakes. At the same time, within the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, Ning Fengji also received a secret letter from the Martial Soul Hall, which contained the same information as the one in the hands of the Snow Knight Emperor. Ning Fengji knows exactly who Qin Hua is. This Qin Hua must be the fish that he discovered at the time, but didn't have time to take action to kill. He thought the Martial Soul Hall would take action, but who could have imagined that this kid not only did not die, but also became Bibidong's eldest disciple. Most importantly, he even awakened the soul-devouring martial soul. He knew exactly what kind of soul-devouring martial soul it was. At this moment, Sword Douluo came to Ning Fengji's side. Master, the Snow Knight Emperor has sent you to the palace to discuss important matters with you. Do you have any idea what it is? Sword Douluo was very puzzled. He didn't understand what the Snow Knight Emperor had to do with Ning Fengji at this time. Ning Fengji handed the letter in his hand to Jian Douluo, who took it and began reading it. But not long after, his face suddenly changed. Is this Qin Hua? The fish that escaped the Qin family's net? And has he awakened the soul-devouring martial soul? Ning Fengji heard the words and said with a bitter smile. Yeah, it's just such a coincidence. When the Snow Knight Emperor asked me to go, it must have been a matter of questioning. This time, it was indeed our negligence. It's not your fault. Who would have thought that things would happen so coincidentally? Stop talking about this, let's go to the palace with me. Since the incident has already happened, we need to find a way to remedy it. Ning Feng stood up. In the Martial Soul Hall, Bibidong stood in place for a long time. At this moment, Ju Douluo Yuguan ran in from outside. Is everything done now? Don't worry, Pope. The matter you have explained has already been spread through the mouths of those people. I believe now, those guys are thinking of countermeasures. Upon hearing this, Bibidong's eyes showed a satisfied expression. It is estimated that there are still people from the Seven Treasures and Glass Sect in the heavenly Dou Empire. I never imagined that their meticulous work, which was planted in the Martial Soul Hall, had already defected to it. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Soul Devouring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Soul Devouring. Tell me, what should I do about this matter? In the spacious and bright hall, the atmosphere is very serious. The Snow Knight Emperor had a frosty expression on his face, as if questioning Ningfengji. This matter is indeed Ningfengji's negligence, and Ningfengji has nothing else to refute. So, what should we do about this matter? Ningfengji was also very frustrated at this time, living for over 40 years, and receiving such treatment for the first time. What else can we do? Find a way to get rid of this Qin Hua. Get rid of it. Are you serious? Both you and I know that the strength of the Martial Soul Hall is not as simple as it seems. Since Bibidong has taken that villainous obstacle as his disciple, he must be fully prepared. It's probably not that easy to take action. Ningfengji spoke up. Upon hearing these words, the Snow Knight Emperor pondered for a moment. Indeed, I was a bit anxious and spoke without thinking. If you want to attack Qin Hua, you must first find a way to deal with the Martial Soul Hall. But how could the Martial Soul Hall be so easily shaken? Ningfengji couldn't help feeling a little relieved when he saw the Snow Knight Emperor stop talking. I was sprayed by the Snow Knight Emperor for so long just now, and finally managed to win a round. But face still needs to be given. Anyway, whether it can be achieved or not, we need to give it a try. We can first come up with two solutions. One is the one you mentioned, assassinating Qin Hua. But we must understand that in the Martial Soul Palace, we have no chance, so we cannot take action. If we want to assassinate, we can only wait until Qin Hua leaves the Martial Soul City. I don't believe it, then Qin Hua can stay in the Martial Soul Palace forever. Upon hearing Ningfengji's words, the expression of the Snow Knight Emperor only slightly calmed down. Ningfengji still has a sense of propriety. What about the second method? Ningfengji gave the steps, but he couldn't keep blaming Ningfengji. The two are still in the same interest group and are people on the same boat. Although the two looked unhappy at each other, it was not yet time to tear open their faces. After all, there are strong enemies outside, and both the Martial Soul Hall and the Star Luo Empire are watching closely. Internally, there must be no fire. My second method is to kill clearly. Ningfengji carries profound meaning. Mingsha. Upon hearing this, the Snow Knight Emperor was about to mock when he suddenly thought of something. Yeah. I didn't expect it. Ningfengji Sodot called clear killing refers to using public opinion to kill the heart and achieve the goal of killing. Qin Hua's martial soul devours the soul, after all, it is one of the forbidden martial souls in the mainland. In the past millennium, there have been 3 soul masters who possess soul-devouring martial souls. But without exception, they were all led and killed by the Martial Soul Hall. But this time, the Martial Soul Hall is going to do something Huiro, which is clearly a double standard. 500 years ago, there was also a member of the imperial family of the heavenly Dou Empire who possessed soul-devouring martial souls. At that time, the Martial Soul Hall did not give any opportunity to be gentle. The offering of the 7 Martial Soul Hall titled Douluo directly rushed into the heavenly Dou royal family and executed them inside the palace. At that time, the Tiandou Empire did not say anything else in order to follow the long-standing rules. But this time, what kind of Huiro should the Martial Soul Hall do? Although they cannot rush into the Martial Soul Hall, they can use public opinion to let the Martial Soul Hall take action on their own and kill Qin Hua. Then let's act separately. I'm responsible for organizing personnel. Once Qin Hua leaves the city, I'll find a way and look for opportunities. As long as we kill Qin Hua without leaving any evidence, the Martial Soul Hall just wants to hold him accountable, but there's no chance. Then I will mobilize and spread the news of Qin Hua, the holy son of the Martial Soul Hall, awakening the soul-devouring martial soul in the shortest possible time across the entire continent. Ning Fengji and the Snow Knight Emperor exchanged a glance and laughed at the same time. Then wish us success. Do you understand your awakened martial soul? Bibi looked east at Qin Hua and slowly spoke up. To be honest, although Qin Hua has read Douluo Continent, he has never heard of soul-devouring martial soul. There was a hint of confusion in his eyes, and then he shook his head. Your martial soul is called Devouring Soul, which is one of the top martial souls on the Douluo Continent, capable of standing shoulder to shoulder with divine-level martial souls. In some cases, your soul-devouring martial soul can even surpass divine-level martial souls. Because your martial soul can evolve. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, a hint of shock flashed in Qin Hua's eyes. Can martial souls evolve? This is indeed shocking. You should know that in the original work, there are very few people whose martial souls can evolve. Tang San counts 1, Ma Hongjun counts 1. As for the rest, Qin Hua really hasn't heard of it. But even they can only evolve their martial soul once, under specific conditions and limitations. But looking at Bibidong's appearance, it feels like his martial soul is definitely more than just evolving once. That's right, your martial soul can evolve infinitely. The way your martial soul evolves is to directly tear apart the opponent's martial soul and devour it. In this way, your martial soul can not only be improved, but also have a chance to obtain the characteristics of being devoured. For example, if you devour the Seven Treasures Glass Pagoda martial soul, you may have the soul skills of auxiliary martial souls. Of course, the higher the quality of devouring the martial soul, the lower the chance of success. Since the probability is low, let's use the quantity pile. There are hundreds of direct disciples of the Seven Treasures Glass Sect, and they will always succeed once. Qin Hua's language is astonishing. Bibidong was taken aback at the words. She didn't expect Qin Hua to say such things. Very good, you have exceeded my established expectations. Bibidong spoke in admiration. But now, it's not the time to think about these things. Don't worry, I'll help you when necessary. Go to bed early, I'll take you to hunt for the soul ring tomorrow. The first soul ring is crucial for a soul master, I'll help you check it out. Indeed, looking at the entire Douluo Continent, there is no person more suitable than Bibidong to help Qin Hua select martial souls. Because Bibidong also possesses a martial soul with the same characteristics as Qin Hua's soul-devouring martial soul, but compared to Qin Hua's pure soul-devouring martial soul, it is far inferior. Bibidong is able to devour the severely injured Qianshuan disease with the help of the soul-devouring demon spider soul, and his strength is advancing rapidly. You can imagine how powerful Qin Hua's martial soul will be when he grows up. Of course, only a genius who has grown up is called a genius. A dead genius is worthless. To the west of Douluo Continent, in the vast sea area, there is an isolated island. There is no trace of humans on this isolated island, and occasionally a few seagulls can be seen passing by. But beneath the island, there is a different hole. This is a space half the size of the imperial palace of the heavenly Douluo Empire, with a deep black altar in the middle of the vast space. There is a pattern in the center of the altar, which is the soul-devouring martial soul. At this moment, a figure swayed out of the nearby cave. That is an old man who looks like he could be blown away by the wind at any time, leaving only a skeleton. 300 years have passed, and finally the young master has been born again. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. First Soul Ring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 First Soul Ring. The outskirts of the starry forest are very lively. After a while, one can see soul masters chasing soul beasts passing by. The outskirts of the star forest are the areas with the highest number of soul masters and soul beasts. The level of soul masters here is mostly not high, and the lifespan of soul beasts is not high, mostly dropping below 300 years. Not far away, there is a wave of soul masters besieging a century-old amethyst ape. At this time, this amethyst ape has already shown signs of decline under the siege of several human soul masters. At this moment, the eyes of those soul masters were already filled with joy. If nothing unexpected happened, this soul beast would have been taken today. But at that moment, a loud drum sound came over. After hearing this, a hint of doubt flashed in the eyes of those soul masters. After looking at each other and confirming that it was not an illusion, they quickly got up and left directly. The purple crystal ape thought it was dead today, but these human soul masters who were besieging it suddenly left. Unexpectedly, when the purple crystal ape was very puzzled, several terrifying soul power waves surged from far to near. At this point, the purple crystal ape was too late to run. It didn't even have a chance to dodge, so it was crushed to pieces by the terrifying momentum. In fact, this can only blame this amethyst ape for its misfortune. If it weren't in a seriously injured state, it wouldn't have died at all. Although these terrifying auras are powerful, they all have a sense of propriety. Intended to suppress, not to erase. Wherever this drum goes, no soul master dares to stay in place. Even if the soul beast in front of them only had one last breath left, they would never dare to stay any longer. Because this drum sound represents the martial soul hall. This drum sound is also divided into many levels. The drumbeat made of ghost tiger skin represents the highest level of the martial soul hall. The newcomer is naturally Qin Hua, and by Qin Hua's side, there are also Bibidong and her two generals. This is just a fake Qin Hua hunting for the first soul ring, and in fact, it is not so grand. But Bibidong didn't feel at ease letting others come. And Ju Douluo Moon Pass and Gue Douluo Ghost have always been inseparable from Bibidong's side. Teacher, do you have a suitable goal? Qin Hua spoke with some confusion. Along the way, Qin Hua clearly saw that countless soul beasts were suppressed by Bibidong's powerful aura, lying on the ground afraid to move at all. But Bibidong couldn't even see them and headed towards the depths of the starry forest. But Qin Hua was somewhat anxious because according to the soul ring restrictions on Douluo Continent, the maximum age of the first soul ring was 423 years. Soul masters cannot absorb beyond the corresponding lifespan of soul rings. Now they are located deep outside the star forest. A few more steps forward, leaving the outskirts of the star forest is equivalent to entering the true star forest. There, the density of human soul masters will decrease at a geometric rate, while the age of soul beasts is mostly in the thousands of years. Even worse, there will be eternal soul beasts. Qin Hua doesn't have to worry about his own danger, but he worries about whether he can absorb soul rings that exceed his lifespan. If one accidentally cannot bear the soul ring and self-destructs, then one is not at a loss of blood. But Bibidong did not respond to Qin Hua, still tightly closing his eyes and furrowing his brows. Stop! Bibidong suddenly spoke up and flew out of the carriage. Chrysanthemum Douluo immediately grabbed the reins and the carriage stopped. It seems that the Pope has already chosen a target under his crown. Chrysanthemum Douluo slowly spoke up. Upon hearing these words, Qin Hua's eyes flashed with a hint of joy. To be honest, having a backing is good. Imagine Tang San hunting the soul ring, and Yu Xiaojiang almost lost his life. But Bibidong was there, and he didn't even make a move. After Qin Hua got off the car, Bibidong had already returned to the front of the carriage. In front of Bibidong, there is a black magic spider that has been knocked unconscious. I really didn't expect to encounter the soul-devouring spider here. It looks like fate. A hint of joy flashed in Bibidong's eyes. You should know that the soul-devouring spider evolved from the mutation of the soul-devouring spider and is very rare. On the entire Douluo Continent, the number of devouring magic spiders will definitely not exceed 100. But unexpectedly, there was one right in front of Qin Hua at this moment. Qin Hua's soul-devouring martial soul, strictly speaking, is actually between spiritual martial souls and control martial souls, and can also be regarded as a strong attack martial soul master. In one sentence, Qin Hua's martial soul is simply omnipotent. I originally wanted to find the Dark Demon Dragon as your first soul ring, but I didn't expect that there would be a devouring magic spider here. However, its lifespan is 1,000 years. It's still difficult to absorb your first soul ring for 1,000 years. Obviously, Bibidong is also very afraid of Qin Hua's accident. After all, Qin Hua still holds a relatively high position in her heart, and this kind of super intense absorption of soul rings has not been uncommon. However, there are very few people who dare to absorb, and the success rate is also very low. At this moment, Qin Hua suddenly spoke up. I'm willing to give it a try. Upon hearing Qin Hua's words, a hint of admiration flashed in Bibidong's eyes. You deserve to be my disciple, but you need to be clear. There's no need to show off. Once you feel like you can't absorb refining, stop absorbing. Even if you cherish a soul ring, it can't compare to you. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Qin Hua's heart warmed. Qin Hua arrived at the soul-devouring spider, who was already on the brink of death. Bibidong, relying solely on his momentum, directly dealt serious damage to the soul-devouring spider. At this moment, it seemed as if the soul-devouring spider didn't seem to have any injuries on the surface, but in fact, all the bones of its body had been crushed by Bibidong. If it weren't for Bibidong using his soul power to catch the last breath of the soul-devouring spider in order to give Qin Hua the final blow, it would probably have been dead long ago. Bang! Qin Hua punched the soul-devouring spider on the head, giving it a very soft feeling. This is because Bibidong had already smashed the skull of the soul-devouring spider, and this blow gave the soul-devouring spider its final blow. As the soul-devouring spider lost its last glimmer of vitality, a purple millennium soul ring slowly appeared in mid-air. This purple is just a light purple. It seems that the soul-devouring spider has just broken through its 1,000-year lifespan. But no matter what, this is still a soul-devouring spider with 1,000 years of cultivation. Used as the first soul ring, it's still a bit presumptuous. At this moment, Qin Hua thought of her parents and the Qin family. Thinking of the Qin family, how they were treated as chess pieces by the Seven Treasures Glass Sect and the Heavenly Douluo Empire, and died tragically on the spot. To seek revenge, I must succeed. Qin Hua gritted his teeth and immediately tried to absorb the purple soul ring. Bibidong stood on the side and watched quietly. Douluo was on guard from the side, afraid that someone might suddenly appear and disturb Qin Hua's martial soul absorption. The hatred in this kid's heart is too strong, it has reached the point of disturbing his mind. Chrysanthemum Douluo spoke up. That's what I want to see. Bibidong dropped a sentence and stopped speaking. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. The Horror of Soul Devouring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. The Horror of Soul Devouring. Qin Hua felt as if he had been soaked in boiling magma, and he couldn't help but tear all his clothes apart. The scorching heat made his whole body appear a strange fiery red. At this moment, Qin Hua's eyebrows were furrowed and his veins were bulging all over his body. It is obvious that he is currently experiencing extremely terrifying pain. This kind of pain is unbearable for him, even if he is a soul of 2 lifetimes. This kind of pain originates from the depths of the soul. However, Qin Hua did not speak up and gave up. At this point, he was able to persist until now, relying entirely on hanging in one breath. Whenever he wanted to give up, the tragic death of the Qin family appeared in front of him. If one cannot seek revenge for their parents and family members, then it is in vain to travel on their own. What can't bear this pain? The blazing energy rushed into Qin Hua's head and instantly spread throughout his body along his tendons and veins. In an instant, Qin Hua even felt as if he had been roasted. However, as the blazing energy moved down from above, the pain finally subsided significantly. This half hour was almost half an hour that cost Qin Hua's life. During this half-hour period, Qin Hua felt as if all his internal organs were about to burn. Qin Hua really doesn't want to bear this feeling again. As time passed, everything returned to silence. But this was not over yet. Qin Hua suddenly stood up and stood up straight. At this moment, the elemental spirit that devours the magic spider is still in mid-air and has not dissipated. At this moment, it seemed as if an invisible pair of hands had suddenly appeared, and they were able to tear apart the elemental spirit that devoured the magic spider. The next moment, the soul-devouring martial soul opened its mouth, and the elemental spirit of the devouring magic spider, which had been torn in half, was directly swallowed by the soul-devouring martial soul. Upon witnessing this scene, both the Moon Pass Ghost and the Phantom turned pale. Although they self-proclaimed themselves not to be good people, this is really the first time they have seen such evil and cruel means. Finally, this inhumane torture has come to an end. Qin Hua collapsed to the ground, as if he had been pulled out of the water. At this moment, on top of Qin Hua's soul-devouring martial soul, there was also a light purple soul ring, which was the soul ring that devoured the magic spider. Despite enduring such inhumane torment, Qin Hua was extremely excited to feel the clear energy fluctuations emanating from the soul ring. He has finally succeeded, and now he is a true soul master. At this moment, several pots of cold water suddenly splashed down from the sky, pouring a deep chill on him. As water droplets slid off the body, those sweat stains also disappeared completely. "Put on your clothes and come with me." Bibidong slowly spoke up. Qin Hua only then realized that he was completely naked and naked. Although he is still a child, his soul is still an adult. At this moment, he looks very embarrassed and lowers his head, his face turning red. However, he did not notice Qin Hua's changes. After all, in the eyes of Bibidong and others, Qin Hua was still a child. "Put on your clothes and follow Bibidong to another open space. Let me see your soul skills." "Okay." Qin Hua nodded, but just as he was about to perform, he noticed that Bibidong made a stop gesture. Just as Qin Hua was puzzled, Bibidong's figure immediately disappeared into place. When Bibidong reappeared, on top of her hands, she held onto a black-clothed man like a little chick. A hint of disdain flashed in Bibidong's eyes and he threw the two of them directly to the ground. Upon seeing the situation, Douluo quickly stepped forward and placed his hand on one of the people's necks. Seeing no interest, he quickly walked towards another person. No need to look, they all have deadly poison in their teeth, constantly restrained by soul power. Once their vitality is cut off, the poison will flow out from the gaps in their teeth. Humph, 2 soul warriors, what a big move. I am irresponsible. Yuguan and the ghost exchanged a glance and quickly spoke up. It is obvious that these 2 black-clothed men have been following them for a long time, and they have not noticed at all. This is indeed their negligence. If it weren't for Bibidong following, no one would be sure what happened. Upon hearing this, Bibidong waved his hand and said nothing. It's not your fault. Although these 2 only have the strength of the soul Douluo, their martial souls are extremely precious and possess hidden soul skills. With the strength of the soul Douluo, they can even withstand the exploration of the title Douluo with ordinary strength. You too, don't blame yourself. Upon hearing Bibidong say this, their faces burned even more. The general title Douluo clearly carries some dissatisfaction compared to Bidong. Let's burn the bodies of these 2 people. Humph, with this strength, only the heavenly Dou Empire royal family can send out 2 soul Douluo with hidden martial souls. This time, they will suffer a lot. In the imperial family of the Tiandou Empire, the Snow Knight Emperor wandered back and forth in the main hall. Because not long ago, he received a message that Qin Hua had left the city. But the bad news is that by Qin Hua's side, there is at least one titled Douluo. The Snow Knight Emperor was not surprised by this either. After all, he is the holy son of the martial soul hall. It would be a bit strange if he didn't have the title Douluo to protect him. For safety reasons, he dispatched his most elite and skilled concealers, the gold and silver elders, hoping to gain some rewards. At this moment, a man in black rushed in from the door in panic. Seeing this guard so panicked, the Snow Knight Emperor's heart rang with a thud. Shouldn't anything bad happen? Your Majesty, the golden and silver elders have died. There is an error in the intelligence, and Pope Bibidong of the Martial Soul Hall is also present. What? Bibidong is also here. Has Qin died? At this moment, the Snow Knight Emperor seemed to have aged by several decades. This gold and silver elder has been following him for decades and has always been a right-hand man in his intelligence assassination organization. How could it be, Bibidong is also here? Damn it, damn it. At this moment, the Snow Knight Emperor didn't know what to do. He had guessed that Bibidong would attach great importance to Qin Hua, but he did not expect that Qin Hua would hunt a first soul ring and Bibidong would follow him. As a result, his gold and silver elders were compensated. I know, you go down. Send someone to the Seven Treasures Glass Sect and tell Lord Ning. Everything depends on him. At this point, the Snow Knight Emperor was already feeling a bit tempted to give up his plans. After all, this was the first step, which resulted in him losing 2 generals. It's hard to say what will happen in the future. He cannot afford this loss. Now you can rest assured to showcase it. Within a radius of 10 kilometers, there are only 3 of us. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Qin Hua immediately felt relieved. Teacher, 2 elders, my first soul skill is called, Martial Soul Tier. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Plan fails. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Plan fails Martial Soul Tearing. After hearing this name, Bibidong and others immediately became curious. They hold high positions and are at the top of the entire Douluo Continent. But they have never heard of soul techniques like Martial Soul Tearing. Martial Soul Tearing, as the name suggests, is to tear apart the opponent's martial soul. If you can really tear apart the opponent's martial soul, then this soul skill is too incredible. Teacher, 2 elders. Currently, my martial soul tearing can only cause the opponent's martial soul to temporarily lose its effectiveness, while also weakening the opponent's martial soul's power. This weakening of the martial soul's power is permanent and irreparable. Upon hearing Qin Hua's words, Bibidong and several others could see the shock in each other's eyes. You should know that a martial soul is the most authentic thing for a soul master, and it is also the most difficult thing to harm. Even for those extremely powerful spiritual soul masters, it is not easy to harm the opponent's martial soul. And Qin Hua was able to do it. At this moment, Qin Hua spoke again. If as my strength increases, I can directly destroy the opponent's martial soul and refine and absorb it. After hearing this sentence, only one word remained in the minds of Bibidong and the others, against heaven. Tear apart the opponent's martial soul, refine and absorb it, and transform it into the power of one's own martial soul, truly worthy of being the leader of evil martial souls in Douluo Continent. If it weren't for Qin Hua being in the camp of the Martial Soul Hall, the Martial Soul Hall would never have allowed such a powerful soul master to grow. To directly destroy the opponent's martial soul on a general soul master, it requires at least absolute crushing strength. For example, if you want to destroy the martial soul of a soul saint, you must at least take action with the title Douluo. Qin Hua, on the other hand, is of the same rank. Try to think about it, as long as Qin Hua breaks through to the title Douluo, who among the same level is still his opponent. We need to keep this soul skill secret from the outside world. If you guessed it right, under the influence of the Seven Treasures and Glass Sect, there may have been a campaign against you on the mainland. I'll find a way to calm this storm first, and then you can appear in front of them." Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Qin Hua nodded. He knows that this is better than Bidong treating him. Such inhumane martial souls will definitely be conquered by the vast majority of soul masters. At this moment, Qin Hua went out to seek his own death. As expected by Bibidong, just as she was searching for a suitable soul ring for Qin Hua, a huge storm had quietly stirred up in Douluo Continent. The soul-devouring martial soul has once again reappeared on the mainland, and the martial soul hall is biased towards protection. Is it true enlightenment, or do you have other ideas? This call has received the support of the vast majority of soul masters. However, due to the reputation that the martial soul hall has established in their hearts for so many years, most people still only hold inquiries without taking practical actions. It should be noted that before Tang San emerged, the martial soul hall had always been in existence on the Douluo continent to maintain the world order of soul masters throughout the continent. And it also continues to distribute soul coins to those soul masters for a long time, most of which are paid by the martial soul hall. Moreover, the martial soul hall has branches throughout the mainland all year round, and even some towns with only a few thousand people have soul masters from the martial soul hall who are responsible for awakening their martial souls. Once favored by the martial soul hall, they will be exempt from all expenses, and their families will also enjoy endless wealth and prosperity throughout their lives. Even if you sacrifice yourself in the actions of the martial soul hall, it will still protect you for 3 generations of wealth and give you a special invitation spot. As long as your talent is not too poor, you can enter the Soul Master Academy of the Martial Soul Palace to learn. Moreover, the Martial Soul Hall also took the lead in organizing the Mainland Advanced Soul Master Academy competition, which stimulated the enthusiasm of various Advanced Soul Master Academies. It is precisely because of these that the world of soul masters in Douluo Continent is so prosperous. It can be said that these various measures have won countless hearts for the Martial Soul Hall. That's right, this is the means to win people's hearts. Everyone understands, but they are still grateful to the Martial Soul Hall. Because without the Martial Soul Hall, there would be no such thing. If it weren't for this, in the subsequent soul hunting actions, the Martial Soul Hall would be able to develop into a soul master in hand, occupying as much as half of the soul masters in Douluo Continent, and advanced soul masters would occupy the majority of the situation. Faced with so many inquiries from soul masters, Bibidong didn't say anything else and still kept his initial words. And she personally took Qin Hua as her disciple, which is enough to show her great determination. Otherwise, she could easily find an elder and take Qin as her disciple, without the need to do it herself. It is this seemingly pale and powerless argument that has convinced most people. In the depths of the imperial family of the Tiandou Empire, Ning Fengji and the Snow Knight Emperor sat together, looking dejected. They didn't expect that the 2 plans they discussed would eventually go bankrupt. "Emperor, we discovered it too late. When the Martial Soul Hall wanted to intervene in the 2 empires' soul masters' worlds, we should have been vigilant." Ning Fengji slowly spoke up. At this moment, the Snow Knight Emperor also felt some regret. He did not expect that in just a few hundred years, the penetration of the Martial Soul Hall had become so strong. Could the Emperor consider finding a way to eliminate the power distribution of the Martial Soul Hall in the Heavenly Douluo Empire, especially those sub-halls responsible for awakening martial souls? It's like a cancer, pulling countless soul masters and geniuses into the Martial Soul Hall. Upon hearing Ning Fengji's words, the Snow Knight Emperor felt a headache. "I understand what you mean, but you also need to understand that the Martial Soul Hall is not an empire. With the service of surrounding kingdoms, it can afford to give soul masters gold soul coins. However, our Heavenly Douluo Empire is an empire. The billions of people who pay taxes and maintain the Heavenly Douluo Empire are already struggling." Upon hearing the words of the Snow Knight Emperor, Ning Feng remained silent. Although corruption has always been a serious phenomenon, it must be admitted that the Snow Knight Emperor was indeed a capable emperor. Half of the tax revenue of the Tiandou Empire was used for its infrastructure and maintenance. As for the other half, he naturally entered the pockets of those powerful officials and himself. If the other half of the tax revenue is allocated to those soul masters for subsidies, it is not impossible. But in this way, it's like snatching food from the mouth of the Snow Knight Emperor. How could the Snow Knight Emperor be willing? This matter, Ning Fengji knew it was impossible to achieve, so he did not mention it. Then we can't just sit idly by and watch Qin Hua grow up. Ning Fengji felt that it was still necessary to talk about it. But at this moment, the Snow Knight Emperor seemed to have thought of something, sitting steadily on the fishing platform. I don't believe it, then Qin Hua can remain silent. Soul-devouring martial soul and the means to defeat opponents have always been very inhumane. As long as Qin Hua takes one action, I am confident that I can make a full article. In the face of ironclad facts, even Bibidong can't say anything. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. First Trial Task, Seeking Recommendation Ticket. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 First Trial Task, Seeking Recommendation Ticket. After returning to the Martial Soul Hall, Qin Hua thought Bibidong would protect himself, but the fact was clearly not so. The next morning, Bibidong called Qin Hua to him. Regardless of whether you can become the future Pope of the Martial Soul Hall or not, you should consider yourself the future heir of the Martial Soul Hall. Therefore, you must always demand strict standards of yourself. I will not blindly protect you, there are some things you must do on your own. You must be wondering why I have never taken much action. Because a qualified pope never only relies on external forces, but also on your own strength. Bibidong's words made Qin Hua very clear that the saplings in the greenhouse can never become towering trees. Of course, unless it is treated with pesticides, but there are no pesticides on this Douluo Continent. So all of this ultimately depends on Qin Hua himself. If Qin Hua only knows how to rely on the strength of the Martial Soul Hall, but he doesn't have the strength himself. One is the inability to subdue the public, and the other is the inability to establish authority externally. This letter contains information about Princess Lingyang, the second princess of the Heavenly Dou Empire. Tomorrow, she will go fishing in the Starry Moon River outside the Heavenly Dou City, and I will hand her over to you. You will decide what to do. According to intelligence, Princess Lingyang will only be accompanied by one soul saint. This time, I will send 2 soul Douluo to help you. Remember, you must do it cleanly and neatly. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Qin Hua immediately spoke up. Don't worry, teacher. Okay, you go. Qin Hua was very confident and Bibidong was also very satisfied. After Qin Hua left, Bibidong called Zhu Douluo to his side. Tomorrow, you will personally go and secretly protect Qin Hua. As long as Qin Hua's life is not in danger, you don't need to take action. Remember, your main task in this line is to keep records. Even if Qin Hua goes to the bathroom, you must take note of every detail. Don't let go of every detail. Under the crown of the Pope, is it still too early to start honing his character so early? After hesitating for a moment, Zhu Douluo spoke up. Upon hearing this, Bibidong shook his head. It's getting late, his identity is really special, and I don't know how many years I can protect him. Besides, the Martial Soul Hall is not an iron block. The variables are too big. Upon hearing Bibidong's words, Kikuduluo's face changed. Is it? Just no, there's no need to say it. I have a headache, you go out. That night, Qin Hua tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall asleep for a long time. He's not stupid, of course you can tell. Bibidong's purpose is to hone his character. That Princess Lingyang is destined to let him come to an end. And those 2 soul Douluo exist, only responsible for dealing with the guards around Princess Lingyang. Tomorrow he will personally kill someone, and this feeling is indeed too difficult to describe. Excited and scared, as if with a hint of anticipation. Time flies by so fast, as if just flipping a few bodies, the sky brightens up. He jumped out of bed and didn't need to wear clothes because he didn't even take off his clothes. Arriving at the square, there were already 6 people covered in black robes waiting there. "Have you seen the Holy Sun?" 6 people spoke in unison. Due to their bodies being shrouded in black robes, it was impossible to see their faces clearly. Qin Hua can only judge their age based on their voices. 2 people should already be in their 50s or 60s, while the rest should be around 30 years old. "Thank you all." Qin Hua clenched his fists and slowly spoke. "We will strictly follow the words of the Holy Sun, and spare no effort in the face of danger and danger." "Okay. Then let's go." With only a hint of night remaining in the sky before it was fully lit, the 7 of them quietly left the martial soul hall through a side door. Their goal is precisely the imperial capital of the Tiandou Empire, Tiandou City. After Qin Hua left, Bibidong walked out of the rockery with Douluo and Douluo. "Crown, then I'll go." Chrysanthemum Douluo spoke up. "Go ahead." Bibidong spoke lightly. Watching the figure of Chrysanthemum Douluo disappear, Bibidong remained speechless for a long time. When Qin Hua and his companions arrived at Tiandou City, it was already approaching noon. To cover up, they all walked along the path. So, naturally, there was a delay in time. Fortunately, Princess Lingyang only goes fishing in the afternoon, so they have plenty of time. Looking at the letter in his hand, Qin Hua felt both warm and shocked by the powerful intelligence system of the martial soul hall. Because on this letter, the information about Princess Lingyang is written to the fullest, even indicating what kind of underwear she is wearing today. Qin Hua couldn't help but marvel that the Empire's defeat on this day was not unjustified. If it weren't for Tang San, the son of the heavenly destiny, who was born out of nowhere, the martial soul hall would have swept the entire Douluo Continent with so many years of preparation and effort. Arrive at the designated location and ambush, just wait quietly for the arrival of Princess Lingyang. Although Xingyue River is outside Tiandou City, it is also a royal garden, so there are basically no people here. The Snow Knight Emperor dotes on his beloved princess, and the Star Moon River is actually specially made for Princess Lingyang. This Xingyue River was not originally called Xingyue River, but because Princess Lingyang's real name was Xingyue, the Snow Knight Emperor directly changed the name of this river. Killing this Snow Knight Emperor's favorite princess this time would make me feel heartbroken to come to that Snow Knight Emperor. Thinking of his parents and family members who were slaughtered, Qin Hua felt very happy in his heart. Today, it's just a matter of collecting some interest. One day, I will even claim back everything I have with interest. As time passed by, the goal finally appeared. A line of over 100 people emerged from Tiandou City in a vast soup and headed straight for the Star Moon River. With over 60 accompanying guards and nearly 50 eunuchs and palace maids, it can be said to be very spectacular. The people who came and went quickly hid when they saw it. Because Princess Lingyang has a bad temper, although she dare not easily kill, beating and scolding are common. Not long ago, a couple rushed towards Princess Lingyang's horse. Princess Lingyang got off the carriage and instructed several guards to break their legs, causing the unborn child of the woman to die in the womb. Princess Lingyang only dropped a few dozen gold soul coins and learned about this matter. For her, things that can be solved with money are not considered things. And the couple, afraid of the princess's reputation and authority, could only swallow their pride and agree. But it is said that the couple hung themselves shortly after returning home, which can be said to be a very tragic story. Your Highness, you can take action now. I have found the location of the Soul Saint, who is the groom of Princess Lingyang's horse. Qin Hua heard the words and looked forward. Behind Princess Lingyang, there was indeed an unattractive old man who looked very inconspicuous. Who would have thought that this was a powerful Soul Saint? You should know that Soul Saint can also be considered as a middle and upper class in the imperial family of the heavenly Douluo Empire. Now she is willing to act as a groom to protect Princess Lingyang, which is enough to show the reverence of her status. End of this chapter.